1986 was a big year for video games. It was the year that gave the world Dragon Quest, Metroid, Ghosts and Goblins, Super Mario Bros. 1 and 2, and of course, The Legend of Zelda. An epic open-world fantasy unlike any other at the time, this game was every adventurer's dream come true. It introduced players to characters that have since become international icons, whose legends have spread far beyond gaming to spawn comics, concerts, animated TV shows, and a multitude of merch including a special edition of Monopoly. The original Legend of Zelda welcomed would-be heroes to the very first iteration of Hyrule, a beautiful, magical world worth getting lost in. And trust me, I did. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of the Completionist New Game Plus, the show where I am recompleting the first 120 games I ever featured here on the channel, or on that in the box down below. As we wind things down with New Game Plus, it's time to look at the last few games and really analyze them for what they are. And surprise, surprise, one of the last few games to talk about is the original Legend of Zelda for the NES. And what a title with so much weight. This is a game that, before YouTube came along, before my career even started, I had played to death all those years ago. In fact, this game is so important to me that when I got to interview Miyamoto, I had him sign my own childhood cartridge. To the point where now, I have a 3DS that's signed by him, Anuma, Bill Trinan, and, of course, the amazing Reggie Fils-Aimé. It feels like I've completed this game 30 times in my life, and chances are, because I probably have. But hey, for New Game Plus, we're in the final 10 games left. So what better way to celebrate as we get closer and closer to that finish line with the incredible Legend of Zelda for the NES.
And the battle continues! This could turn it all around! This bout will determine who is the strongest once and for all!
Hey, real quick, I want to talk about today's sponsor and one important thing attached to that sponsor. Are you sleeping all right? Because if you're not, your mattress might be the reason to blame. And that's where our sponsor comes in, Helix Sleep. Now, I'm coming up on almost 2 years with my Helix Sleep mattress, and my Helix mattress has remained firm and springy this entire time. And countless fans, and even our general manager, Frazier, who just recently purchased a Helix mattress, can confirm alongside me that the revised Helix Sleep Quiz ensures that you're gonna get a mattress that is perfect for you and your unique sleep needs. So, however you sleep, you can rest assured you're gonna get the mattress that is right for you. The mattress will be delivered with free shipping anywhere in the US, and it's extremely easy to set up. Helix is so confident in their product that not only do they offer a 10-year warranty and offer a 100-night sleep trial, but they also offer free shipping anywhere within the US. And that's all on top of saving you $200 when you click the link below or go to helixsleep.com/thecompletionist, and you're gonna get 2 free pillows. Plus, Helix Sleep offers financing options and flexible payment plans. And hey, if you don't love it, Helix will offer you a full refund. So once again, if you're looking to get sleep on a great mattress, go to helixsleep.com/thecompletionist today. Now, back to the show. When you start out on an adventure, sometimes it's best to have a guide or a map with you. However, some will counter that it's best to let the adventure be your guide. Either perspective isn't right or wrong, but if you go in thinking one only to be ultimately led to the other, it may wildly impact your experience. Such is the case for the original Legend of Zelda, when you look at it from the lens of past to present and its large and cryptic kingdom. Of course, more modern open worlds like that of Elden Ring or The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt make the Legend of Zelda's map look like a pixie standing next to a cave troll. In fact, and somewhat unsurprisingly, of all of the games in the series, the first game's map is the smallest. But back in the 80s, the land of Hyrule seemed huge, and the game as a whole is a prime example of creativity flourishing despite, or maybe even because of, technological restrictions. Game director and now gaming legend Shigeru Miyamoto and his team at Nintendo knew knew the limitations of the Famicom and the NES systems, and used that knowledge to make smart development decisions every step of the way. Palette swapping, for example, allowed for a greater variety of environments, including dungeons, deserts, and lush green forests, to be created with fewer resources. And all the while, there are only 3 songs in the whole game, composer Koji Kondo still created one of the most memorable video game themes ever to grace players' ears. The result of decisions like these was a shorter but much richer gaming experience, one that felt truly magical and still does to this day. As a kid, I all but wore my cartridge out playing The Legend of Zelda on the NES. And as an adult, when I went back to complete The Legend of Zelda for the first time, I was amazed at how well it held up even several decades later. It was still a hell of a lot of fun wandering through the open world and navigating the underworld labyrinth without maps, with nothing but my wits and distant childhood memories to guide me. Now this time around, I played the game on the Nintendo Switch through the Nintendo Switch Online NES Virtual Catalog. And no, while there was an offer to help out greener players, I didn't play the Life of Luxury Edition, which gives you all of the items and upgrades from the very beginning. Where's the fun in that? Now, as complicated as the narrative got in later games with their branching timelines, the first Legend of Zelda's premise is relatively simple. Welcome to the Kingdom of Hyrule. There's an evil monster named Ganon who stole the Triforce of Power, an ancient artifact. Princess Zelda saw that and was like, nah. So she split the Triforce of Wisdom and hid the pieces in 8 dungeons across Hyrule. The hope was that a hero would recover the pieces, reassemble the Triforce, and defeat Ganon. Now, beyond the title crawl in the game, the story gets a little more nuanced as Impa, Princess Zelda's nursemaid, was then tasked with finding this hero, and she searched far and wide. Surely she wouldn't give such an enormous responsibility to just anyone who'd walk up to her, right? Actually, yeah, that's exactly what she did. According to the game's official instruction manual, where the full story is, Link just happened to be in the right place at the right time to save Impa from a group of Ganon's henchmen. And Impa said, you know what? You got this, dude. Impa out. And that little nugget wasn't the only gem to be found in that instruction manual. That guide was a 50-page treasure trove of narrative context and gameplay hints that, back in those prehistoric days before internet access, players couldn't get anywhere else. In addition to a full, beautifully illustrated account of the plot, the manual recorded key information about every single enemy, item, and dungeon in the game. There were even full maps of the overworld and some of the dungeons hidden at the back of the manual, along with a warning that these maps should only be used as a last resort since they took the fun out of exploring the world for yourself. Now, that is one of the biggest things missing from the newer versions. The digital Switch copy doesn't exactly come with a print booklet. It's a shame because the manual added so much to the game. They just don't do that anymore. And I'm sure somewhere in the NSO system there is a manual that you could look at. It's not quite the same though. With all that said, when I first was exposed to Zelda 1, I got it as a hand-me-down, and as a result, I had to adventure out there like most do nowadays, without a guide or manual. Fortunately though, even several years after its release, this game was prime playground talk. Not just because it was an incredible game, but because The Legend of Zelda felt uniquely personal. It was an open-world adventure on a scale that at the time felt massive, and it was absolutely riddled with secrets. Everyone had a different story to tell because in Hyrule, your journey was whatever you made of it. Fast forward to 2013, when I first completed The Legend of Zelda for the show, I did so on that special edition Legend of Zelda Collector's Pack for the GameCube. At the time, this disc was a huge deal, sporting not just Zelda 1, but also Zelda 2 Adventures of Link, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. Quite the reward for pre-ordering Wind Waker of its time. This was also the first time the game was ported to a modern Nintendo console in the US since its original platform, but the first of many from that point on with the Virtual Console on the Wii onward. Overall, when I completed Zelda 1 on the GameCube, I gave the game a finish it rating. I felt the game was fun, even with the obtuse puzzles and some difficult enemies. By comparison, bosses tended to be a breeze. And by the time you faced off against Ganon, you were hot-swapping between all of your arsenal with ease. But more on that in a bit. In the end, Link didn't just turn out to be the hero of Hyrule. He was also Nintendo's knight in shining armor, so to speak. The Legend of Zelda shot like a magic arrow through the sales charts in both Japan and the US, and it is considered by many to be one of the greatest video games of all time. The success of the Zelda franchise continues to this day, and it's all thanks to the solid foundation laid by this, the original Legend of Zelda. The biggest challenge in The Legend of Zelda is also the best part of the game, exploration. There's no North Star to follow here, no quest markers to chase, not even a dirt path to show the way. It's just you and the great wide open. Thankfully, this is a top-down adventure, so at least you have an unobstructed view of your immediate surroundings, and any projectile attacks coming at you from enemies like the Moblin or the Aquamentus. There's also an old man who will give you hints from time to time, but his clues can be vague at best and sometimes misleading. You can also sometimes buy items from the old extortionist in exchange for rupees, the game's currency. But most of the key items can be found only through poking around Hyrule. In general, if you're stuck and not sure how to progress, you just have to start trying things out until you find something that works. Like randomly setting bushes on fire or tossing a bomb at a wall in hopes they will open up a secret passage or hidden staircase. To some, the game's lack of direction might seem daunting. To me, it always felt like innovation. Hyrule is a world meant for wandering, its design inspired by Miyamoto's own mapless meanders through the Japanese countryside. Yeah, some doors and dungeons do require some specific items to proceed through, but more often than not, your path through the kingdom is yours to forge as you will. It is worth noting that for the first-time players, guide or not, you'll often struggle with the economy of resources in this game, which can be a bit stingy with its rupee and bomb drops. Fortunately, last time around, only at the end of my completion playthrough did I find out how to farm rupees through the gambling hall. And as a result, within this playthrough, I was able to go on an early buying spree. Also, if you're ever low on bombs and wondering what the cryptic "the 10th enemy has the bomb" means, spoiler alert. It means you have to kill 10 enemies in a row without taking damage and you are guaranteed a bomb drop. You are welcome. The best news of all for a completionist is that beating The Legend of Zelda typically only takes a few hours once you get the hang of it, but those few hours contain what feels like an infinity of possibilities, as well as 9 labyrinths to solve and a multitude of enemies to meet, greet, and hopefully defeat. Each map-like dungeon contains a map, a compass, a key, a Triforce fragment, and at least one other item to collect, as well as a boss battle, and usually a simple puzzle or two to solve. These labyrinths aren't too hard, provided you avoid the higher level ones until you've upgraded your health and equipment. What I also still find surprising is that, for me anyway, the boss fights in this game range from very easy to very, very easy compared to the hordes of enemies swarming everywhere else. It's crazy how a single big old baddie gets bopped so quickly, but sometimes just 3 dumb wizrobes would goof me up. As the future hero of Hyrule, your greatest virtue isn't your courage or purity of heart. No, it's your ability to item swap effectively. Link's default weapon is his sword. He has one equipped at all times. At full health, he can even use his ranged attacks. If Link takes any damage, however, he can only stab with the sword and must rely on secondary weapons like the boomerang or the bow to attack from a distance. However, with one button always assigned to your blade, you only have one active item slot, meaning you'll need to be quick on the trigger to switch between items in your inventory should you need to drink a potion, throw a bomb, or make a swift escape on your trusty raft. Being nimble-fingered and properly equipped is especially important when facing the final gauntlet, the appropriately named Death Mountain. This is where you face the big bad Ganon himself. Ganon is, simply put, a pain in the ass. When he's not constantly shooting fireballs directly at your face, he's turning invisible like a big fat monster baby he is. The magic sword, the most powerful in the game, helps you take advantage of those rare moments when he is visible. And once you've worn him down enough, you need a silver arrow to finish the job once and for all. Now, newer titles in the franchise are, of course, bigger, shinier, and more complex. That's just the nature of evolving technology. The Adventure of Link introduced the Magic Meter and Dark Link fights. Ocarina of Time brought Hyrule into the 3rd dimension. Breath of the Wild gave fans of the franchise their biggest map yet. But the OG Zelda has that timeless retro charm, with pixel-perfected top-down graphics that looked great for the time. And honestly, I still think this game looks pretty awesome. All you naysayers can say your nays elsewhere. This is a hill, no, a mountain I'm willing to die on. A death mountain, if you will. Yes, this is a game that, for me, is drenched in lots of nostalgia. Is it my favorite Zelda game? No, not at all. Not even close. Link to the Past is my favorite. Zelda 1 is a solid classic that has managed to defy deterioration over time, as if the game itself is under some kind of enchantment. And who knows? Maybe it is. Once you beat Ganon in the final boss fight, thankfully your princess isn't in another castle. You save the day and you can retire to be a happy young hero. Unless, of course, you're a completionist, in which case something known as the second quest, capital S, capital Q, awaits you. Second quest is kind of The Legend of Zelda's New Game Plus, if you will. Presents the player with 9 completely new dungeons to conquer, each one twistier and trickier than the last. And although the goal you're chasing and enemies you are facing are the same as in the regular game, the difficulty has been cranked up significantly here. You can skip straight to this mode if you want by naming your character Zelda when you create a new player profile. But honestly, this mode is not for the faint of heart. If you've never played the original game before, Second Quest is probably not the best place to start your journey. Completing The Legend of Zelda meant finishing both normal and second quest. However, there is no pot of gold at the end of either the first or second figurative rainbow. You aren't getting a golden Triforce next to your player's profile or a unique hidden weapon. You're getting to see the credits roll, and outside of bragging rights, it kind of makes me wonder if second quest is even truly necessary for completion, as it technically is available right from the start if you know. Oh well. As far as extra runs go, this is an 8-bit adventure that isn't too grueling, just maybe not necessary. When I re-completed The Legend of Zelda, there were 2 full-on playthroughs. 18 labyrinths to solve, sans David Bowie, unfortunately. 9 bosses to fight twice, once in normal and once in hard, for a total of 18 battles. 27 regular enemy types to encounter. 36 items to collect. 1 princess to save from 1 very mean villain twice. And 1 old man who's ready to squeeze you for every last rupee you've got. Seriously, what's he gonna spend them on, huh? New rocks for his favorite cave? We get it, man. As much as I still enjoyed Zelda 1, I will say, beating it once, totally worth it. Beating it twice, on a harder difficulty, with no completion bonus whatsoever, not so much. Even though the map gets remixed for second quest, with key items put in different places and dungeon layouts being completely altered, playing normal mode and hard mode back to back just isn't very ideal. If you're an experienced fan of the franchise looking for a bit more of a challenge, yeah, go ahead and skip straight to second quest. Otherwise, it's best to just play the main game and then call it a day. Princess Zelda will understand, I promise. And so, having restored the Triforce of Wisdom yet again, and ousting the dreaded monster Ganon from his Death Mountain lair twice, I still give this game my completionist rating of finish it.
Finish it!